Hey Cosmic Witches! Divine Gossip Girls here, your one and only source into the spiritual happenings of the cosmos.
Ever wonder what this month's energy will have in store for you? What the planets and stars are even up to? Or if the universe can just help you catch a break already?
Well, lucky you, because we have all the spiritual secrets to tell. Get ready to sip on your weekly dose of divine tea.
Okay, so I feel like this conversation is going to be a little bit different, but we're going to pull the curtains back because we've just we're not long off a kind of tarot pull session inside of Aura Elevation. So Maggie kindly gifted us a little tarot card pull live stream inside of our Aura Elevation chat room, and we had some of the members come and they all got a card reading, and we were all there to like see each other and witness each other and celebrate each other and the guidance that Maggie gave each of them. And then it got to Carly and I, and Maggie was like, do you guys wanna a reading? We were like, well, yeah. That's also why we're here. Um, but it was a massive opportunity for us as the leaders of this space to be witnessed in our own vulnerability as well. And Carly shared, she'll probably tell you more about it, but Carly shared about the kind of struggles that she's been moving through and the kind of uncertainty of her path in front of her. And I also shared about my struggles with ADHD and struggles with what I've been moving through. And after we came off the video, the girls jumped into the chat room, some of the members, and just kind of celebrated us for the fact that as leaders, we were really allowing ourselves to be witnessed in this vulnerability and not feel the need to be like quote unquote perfect. So I really just wanted to open this conversation for Carly, Maggie, and I to really just allow you all to see our humanness as well, which I feel like you probably do in most of the episodes anyway, because we are obviously leaders in our own way, but we're also humans as well. And we are embodied leaders. We are embodied practitioners where we're not going to sugarcoat things and tell you that we're perfect and that we don't struggle with anything, because we are humans and we are moving through things and we are constantly moving through our own shit as well. So yeah, I am exposing myself because the past little while I've really been, actually for a while, but it's only recently I've really been allowing myself to acknowledge and start to confront the fact that I do have undiagnosed ADHD, and it's really, really affecting how I work and in business and how I navigate business. And I've been really, really getting frustrated with myself because I'm not where I quote unquote want to be or think I should be. And I feel like the way that I focus and the way that I work is coming back to the fact that actually my brain just really can't do things sometimes, and I get really overstimulated, and it's like I know what I need to do and I want to do all the things that I like have to do, and I'm excited to do all these things, but my brain just like can't do it at times.
And with ADHD, your brain doesn't produce dopamine the same way as everyone else does. So you could be like dying of dehydration on a couch and you could be like, I need to go get water. But you can't because there's not enough dopamine in your body to do it. Yeah, and it's like, I need to do this. Or like, I know I will feel better if I clean my room. I know I'll feel better if I do this thing. But you just can't seem to, because your body, like, you know, in a neurotypical body, you'll go, I need to go do this thing. And your body goes, oh, okay, tiny shot of dopamine. You get up and you do the thing. But in ADHD, it doesn't do those tiny shots of dopamine unless something's like truly exciting to you. And so, or like dire. And it's the same way that like you could have things so chaotic in your home and then someone says, I'll be there in 15 minutes. And all of a sudden you have all this energy that you can like clean up and down, do the entire thing, because that's that extra shot of dopamine that you get. And so it's hard to be like, oh, I just need to do the thing. And like rationally, you're like, I know I just need to do A, B, and C. But realistically, your body and your mind isn't set up to do that. And it's coming to terms with like sometimes this is like what was really coming up in your reading. So it was like sometimes that, the spiritual stuff isn't enough and we're a human having a human experience and we need that human help.
And I think it's just me accepting that as well, and accepting like to ask for help, because also I'm a Leo and I want to do things on my own and I feel like I can do things on my own, but like actually confronting the fact that things are going to continue to feel this resistance a lot of the time and this struggle a lot of the time if I don't get the help that like I need, and it has been really frustrating, and I've noticed it so much more recently since like the girls have been really really not at me, but just like saying like go and phone the doctor like for a while, right? You guys have been saying it for a while, and ever since then I have been acknowledging it a lot more, but I guess just gaslighting myself with it, or just there's this fear of having to communicate and it not be ADHD, but it actually is ADHD. Do you know what I mean? And it's like I'm really struggling to get the things that I want to get done in order to expand my business, in order to like feel more at ease, feel more at peace, because there's so many things that I'm not getting done, but I want to get done. I'm like, why am I not doing it? I can't fucking do it. It's not like there's just this freeze, even though I want to do it, and it is really frustrating. So on the call today, it was basically the kind of reading that came through was Maggie. Basically, what was coming through was like, you can do the spiritual practices and tapping and the more embodiment practices, but there's this other way that you're being invited to get support that isn't a spiritual practice. And it's funny because obviously we've been speaking about it for a while. I've been very mindful of it for a while, but not really actioning on it. And last weekend I was with my cousin. He lives in Canada and he has his own business as well. And we were talking about, I don't know how we got on the topic. I think he was telling me like he has medication for ADHD, and I was like, honestly, like I've been like tossing and turning to like go and speak to a doctor about ADHD as well, and he was like, go and do it. Like I gaslighted myself for far too long as well. Like I waited far too long, and I really struggled in business as well, and having that support like really really has supported me in my business like so much. And obviously then today we had that reading of like there's this other way to have support, because my question to Maggie was like, I want to travel and I want to like expand my business, and I know there's this next step that wants to happen in my path and in my journey, but I just feel like there's a lot of resistance and I don't know what that next step is to move forward in my path. And that again, like that's what came forward, was like having that additional support that's not spiritual and being able to like marry them together in order for me to like expand forward in my path. But I would also love to hear like what like your vulnerable story, Carly, as well, because I know that you shared your vulnerable, like you obviously asked a question to Maggie and you were being seen in that vulnerability in front of clients, right? And that's huge to be seen in that vulnerability with people that you are leading. And that's, I feel like, where we differ for a lot of people as well. It's like we're not, again, sugarcoating things. We're being these embodied leaders, and we're allowing our clients and our community to feel safe and feel a part of something with us on the spiritual experience, but also the human experience as well. So Carly, what came up for you? What was your card and what was your message?
Yeah, I feel like honestly, it's hard for me to even say that, like, I feel like vulnerability is just a part of the business, I guess, that I've grown. Like, I'm pretty sure I've never, like, a lot of people that have been within my community have seen that my business has taken so many twists and turns ever since I started it. And every time there's been a transition, and even in the in between, I feel like my messaging is really sharing vulnerability. And I think that's a huge part of my purpose, is to like publicly really, kind of share.
Yeah. And I think that's
like,
so good that you don't feel the need to like like hide the fact,
I don't
hide
think I
your own things.
could.
Like you
Yeah.
give yourself the permission to be vulnerable and
Mhm.
not let that make you an imposter, or not let that make you any less of a leader or a healer, like that actually
Yeah.
makes you a better leader, a better healer.
And I don't think it's like everyone's path to do that. I think some people, like for some people, maybe they see that as like being unprofessional or something. But I think it's really admirable to see someone like a business owner showing the fact that they're also human and that they also struggle through periods and seasons and cycles of uncertainty or confusion or depression or anxiety. Like these are all normal parts of the human experience, and it doesn't matter what you do, like you still are human and you still move through these things. So something that I've really been navigating, and I feel like it's been huge throughout this year, has been uncertainty. So I feel like, to Maggie, did you want to share a little bit there?
Oh, no, yeah. Well, I was just gonna say, I think that unknown and being vulnerable in that way is also a way to show people that, like, even though maybe we do these practices and we've had beautiful moments and we know ourselves more, that like it's always a journey, like it never really stops. It's not like I'm sitting here with all the answers, and it'd be really easy as a business leader to sit here and be like, I have all the answers for your life to get better. But like that's not authentic and true. Like that's just not the truth. Like I don't have all the answers. I have guidance and I can, help you tap into these magical spaces within yourself, but I sure as hell don't have all the answers. And I sure as hell don't have it figured out myself. And I make mistakes and I deal with things that I'm not happy with, and bad things still happen to me. I think when you're vulnerable and you can express yourself in that way, it can really help with in the coaching space or in the spiritual practitioner space or in the self-development space to stay away from that like toxic positivity, and so that like our communities and clients don't feel like just because something's going wrong in their life means that they're doing something wrong and they're not spiritual enough or good enough or like ascended enough to have avoided this thing, because we're also human. So I think it's really important when we're vulnerable in this way to show people that like they're not doing anything wrong, but maybe they can find some tools to help.
Mm. Yeah, and that's the truth of it, that all of us are both, like throughout all of life, we're students and teachers. Every single person is learning and every single person has wisdom to give. It like there is not one or the other, like they come together. And I think for us to pretend like we're only teachers would be the biggest lie, because it's just not the truth. Like every single person being on this planet has things to move through, has lessons to learn, and it never really stops. And that can be really frustrating sometimes, but it comes in seasons and cycles. So I think that really turns to kind of what I've been moving through, which has been so much. Like, I have to say, so I'm only 23. I know a lot of times we forget that. I forget that because I've always been surrounded by people that are older than me.
I
I've
always
always
forget
been,
that as well, like
yeah,
all the
I've
time.
always been drawn to people that are like 4, 5,
Yeah, just to
10, 20
clarify,
years older
Maggie,
than me.
yeah, Maggie and I are 28, and
You guys
Carla's
are
are
five
now.
years, you're
That's
5 years older
mad.
than me, right?
Wow.
Yeah, which is so weird because, but it's like,
You're
it
really mature for your
reminds
age,
me.
though. I feel like you are a mature
Yeah.
23-year-old for sure.
Well, and I think that's what sometimes like, that's like when I turned 23, I remember my sister telling me, she was like, good luck, because 23 is such a hard year. And I was like, well, how could it get any worse? Because already like at the start of 2024, a lot of things started to get really hard. Like I've dealt with depression in the past, but it's been a while since I have felt depressed. I mean, as someone who is on a spiritual path, I think we forget that we're subject to like all emotions and feelings. And I kind of forgot that depression, like what it felt like, and that it could even, like when it started to creep in, I just kept thinking to myself, like, I must be doing something wrong. Like, I haven't done enough. Like, why am I dealing with this if I have all these tools and resources? And it just like really humbled me in the ways of like realizing that like I am not like, yes, like I think we're all special in our own ways, but I just think like this year has been such a breaking of the ego and like realizing that I am only 23 and it's okay that I don't have all these things together and it's okay like for things to shift and change. And I don't know, like my little mind was like, yes, and I have figured out I love Reiki and healing and it's gonna be what I do for the rest of my life. And then this year was like, bitch, smack. Like wake the fuck up. Like you are not.
That's actually so funny that your sister said that about being 23, because I was just thinking of like 23 for me, and that was the year that I finally graduated and I moved out of my family home. But I remember during that season, also, I feel like, Maggie, was that COVID as well? Was that the pandemic when we were 23?
Yeah, it was because
Yeah,
that's when I
It was
met
5
you,
years.
Sophie.
Yeah, it
Didn't
was 5 years ago.
No,
wait, no.
no.
No,
That was
that was
right
4 years
before
ago. That was
COVID.
before, yeah, because I met you before COVID, Sophie, and that was during the round
No, you
of
didn't.
yeah, right?
No,
It
no.
was after COVID? Oh my God, it was after COVID. I
Yeah,
met you right after COVID
just
though.
right after. But I feel like I'm sure I was 23 when I moved into this flat. But I
23, we were um
yeah, I was
23.
23 and I turned 24 in the July of
Hmm
2020. But like I was
We turned
23.
23.
Maggie's like, I need to figure out the
I'm like,
year.
no, this isn't true.
No,
Like
yeah, this is
Okay,
right.
we're 28.
regardless.
We turned
We were
24.
23 in 2019 and we turned 24 in 2020.
Yeah. So I was 23 when I graduated and when I did move out of my family home. But I do remember that year being really hard because obviously I was graduating and then I was like, what the fuck is next in my life? Like, what am I doing with my life? You know? And obviously that was kind of when the pandemic hit as well. And it was just like so
So many
uncertain. That
things.
word uncertain.
Uncertain. I
That's
feel
the
like
word for you as
23,
well.
well, like 23 in numerology, like 3 plus 2 is 5, and 5 is like change. So no
Yeah.
wonder everyone's
Oh my
23
God.
is
I
like
never thought about
fucking
that.
mad. Also, like it aligns with, yeah, I
Maggie,
mean,
where
it
were
makes a
you?
lot of
You
sense.
also, that was no, was that the year you moved to Copenhagen?
No, I moved to 23 was right before the pandemic, so it was me finishing my master's degree. And then 24 was like height of COVID, and it was 25 that I moved
Oh yeah.
to. It was
But
like
23,
24,
they were changed
25 that I
because when you
moved.
obviously graduated as well, like we both graduated that year too, and obviously that uncertainty of like what that next step is. So I feel like if you're
Yeah.
23 and you're in this era of uncertainty, just embrace the
Or if you're
change.
like in your freaking 20s, like can we just talk about like the
Right?
the roaring 20s are fucking crazy. Like you literally there I think that's why everyone says like 30 like in your 30s it's just such a fun time
Oh,
because
I
like
hope
a
so.
lot of things and after your Saturn return like you've been through the trenches and now you're finally
Maggie,
like
I feel like ours
Like
is coming
we're
up.
it
I'm
is
scared.
we're in like the shadow period now, and like I got
no
deported, so like
wonder Maggie
um
or
let's
Sophie.
think here. Let's look at my 20s. I'm 28. At 20 is
Where is
when I
this going,
met
this conversation?
at 20 is when I met Joel. So, who's my partner now? We've been dating for 8 years. I'm now 28. Was when I met Joel. I was not spiritual whatsoever.
That's
Like
crazy to think.
You literally can't know what
whatsoever.
happens in your 20s. You cannot predict
I
it.
when Joel met me, I was an English major who liked to play music and stuff. And
Good
then at
stuff.
21, I got my job at the crystal shop. 22, I started my master's and I was helping my friend at the time like start a crystal business in a crystal shop. At 23, I started reading like way more than I ever had before because I got my publishing degree and
Are you talking
I
about reading books just in
no, no,
general?
no,
Reading
reading
tarot.
tarot. So
Okay.
like I was doing a condensed course over the summer and I would it was like 9 to 5 school every day so that I could get my degree in book publishing.
Yeah.
And I met some friends who were very woo-woo, but like me, and they were so interested in all of it, but we were all like novices, right? So
Yeah.
I brought in my cards and I started reading for them, and then every day at lunch, people from my class, I would eat for half an hour and then they would line up and I would read for half an hour. And that's how I got so good, because I literally did like 30 to 40 minutes of practice with my tarot cards every single day. And even from that point, like I have a friend and a client who still comes to me for sessions who I would read for back then, and she'd be like, "That's what my therapist says." And then at 24, we had the pandemic, and I was just working for a crystal shop, but I wasn't very happy. And I was learning to stand up for myself. And that's when I started my business, and like kind of like on the side. It was like very on the side. And I like first started charging for readings. At 25, I moved to Copenhagen and started my business full time, even though I hadn't even had a month where I made $1,000 yet. So I don't even know if I'd had a month where I made over like $600 yet. And I was like, yeah, let's go full time. Let's just see how it goes. And then that was my life for a few years. I got certified in past life regression. I started doing psychic mediumship. I started doing astrology. And then at 28, I got deported. Or 27, 28, I got deported. And 27 was a really hard year. 26, I met like some of the closest people. In 25, 26, it was like, I met you, Carly. I met you, Sophie. I met my friend Fede. I met so many people who I was like, these are people who are with me for life. And then 27, I met one of the worst people I've ever met in my life. And I was, so it was like whiplash. I was like the happiest I'd ever been the year before. And then I was like more depressed than I'd been in like 10 years, and having like such a hard time and having to just like figure out who I am again. And then I got deported.
A
And now
roller
I'm
coaster.
here,
Your
and
20s
it's
are a
like
fucking roller coaster.
now figuring out what what I'm doing. Like if I spoke to my 20-year-old, even 19-year-old self, she'd be like, there's no way that you've done everything that you've done and that you've changed your perception of yourself the amount of times that you have.
So
And
that's exactly it. I feel like
yeah,
that's what, like, I feel like the 20s, all of your 20s is like feeling like you have figured something out. And then it's like, oh, not really. Like, it's kind of like you're always in
Oh,
question
not
of like
really.
what it's, yeah, but I really feel like it's like such a unpredictable time. It's very unstable. And I think that's the part that I've struggled with as someone that actually really, it's weird because I crave stability, yet I want change, adventure, and freedom. And I think that
Gemini.
comes Gemini, but
Gemini.
with Virgo rising, because I've recently learned that I'm a Virgo rising, and it makes so much sense because it's like I want, and I think that's what I'm learning is like during a time of uncertainty where so many things are out of my control, what is it that I can like create control in so that I can let the part of me that needs to be like surrendered surrender. And I just think that there has been no grounding. Like my routines have kind of like fallen apart over the past year. Like I don't even know a time when I've been consistent. And I was a little bit in July consistent and my energy really shifted. So I feel like there is like this really big emphasis on routines. Even I know for like Maggie as well, like coming out of a very chaotic year, it's like what was kind of the thing that was inconsistent that probably would create some sort of grounding is like your routines. And if that's the only thing that we can make consistent, like maybe that's the only thing we need to focus in on for ourselves to feel safe enough to surrender to the rest of the process
Carly,
or to
I'm
take the
excited.
action.
I'm excited
Ah,
for the rest of your
I don't,
20s.
that's literally what I was going to talk about because, so I've like, as I've
Like
mentioned
23,
quite a
24
bit,
was the year that I
so
found
much is
all
going to
of this work.
change. I can
Like,
feel it. Because I feel like the thing that I really struggle with is like I experienced a lot of spiritual awakening from such a young age that I think that almost, not that it like fucked me up a little bit, but I think it just like forced me, and I don't even want to say that it like built up my ego, but I think it just kind of made me always feel like I was supposed to be further along than I was, like being
Yeah, because
19.
you come from a quite a spiritual, holistic family, right?
Not like my mom was always spiritual, but I didn't spiritually awaken till I was like 17. So although it was like, you know, quite early for like being with my mom and like my family in Mexico that's
Yeah,
very
you're pretty
spiritual,
young
I
in that sense
didn't.
as well.
Yeah, I was in high school. That's like when I started having very spiritual encounters. And then like throughout college, being spiritual in the midst of also like, you know, breaking away from home and like struggling then with going out and drinking because sometimes my body would have weird reactions, or like, you know, I'm having all these visions and like I'm like, the fuck is happening? And then I'm in college and I'm like, I don't think I want to go down this traditional path because I'm not meant to like be a freaking doctor. But I think what I've
Everyone's
realized,
like partying, and Carly's like Raven and Not So Raven, just like having these
like
visions.
literally like drinking,
Oh
having
my God.
one shot of vodka and then all of a sudden like levitating.
I think we should call her Raven for the rest of time.
It was,
That's
yeah.
so Raven.
But I think it was all like I
It's
do
the
believe
future,
like
Carly can see.
yeah, and it was I do think this year has been a humbling year in a lot of ways, and it's been a year of slowing me down because I think I've always been very ambitious and I'm like, I want it now. I want to have such a massive impact right now. But the truth is like I'm 23 and I need to allow myself time to like discover new avenues, and to believe that doing Reiki and being a healer was the only part of me was actually, even though it felt safe, deep down, that feels very limiting now to believe. I just feel like there's something much bigger. And what kind of came through in Maggie's reading was that I really need to start allowing myself to take action, but from a surrendered place of like, you know, not having expectations for what the outcome will be. Because I do think that what's prevented me from taking action this year, a lot of it, you know, I have been moving through quite a few bouts of like depression or health issues that have just like made me feel so low energy. But I've experienced more days where like my energy is coming back alive and I'm like craving action, but I feel paralyzed by uncertainty, knowing that I don't know what lies ahead. I don't fucking know. Like I have no clue where I'm supposed to go or what it will lead to. But like Maggie said in this card reading, that it's like I just have to like take the action without having expectation of where it's going to lead and see what comes as a result and try things out. And it's challenging because we want that safety net, but I feel like what can help me out in doing that is like kind of having a routine for some time so that I can feel like I can surrender in other ways, because right now there's so much instability within my energetic world and in my physical world that there's no like, and we always say this, you have to root to rise, but I haven't been rooted just in myself, that it's been hard for me to take this surrendered action. So yeah, so for anyone who's moving through a lot of chaos, a lot of uncertainty, maybe this is your sign that you just need to take a step, even if it's like you're not sure what comes next. Like just take a step and try it out, because to be honest, there is no clear step for me right now. I think I get to decide what step I take, and we'll just see what happens as a
I
result.
actually thank you for your vulnerability, but I actually sent Maggie a voice note this morning that she's yet to probably listen to and probably reply to. But both I don't know if Maggie said this in the podcast, but she has been saying it often about how she feels like the best days of her life have gone, because she's obviously lived in Copenhagen, like she's took you through that little timeline of her 20s. And I had that kind of come up this morning as well, hence why I sent you this voice note. Come up because I've been wanting to travel more and live abroad. And I've already lived in Spain twice. I lived in Spain while I was 19/20, and I also lived in Spain when I was 22. Yeah, when I was 22. And I had this like lingering belief come up of like the opportunities to live abroad have gone, and they're not going to come back again. And it kind of reminded me of like that belief that you were holding about your path of like the best days of my life are gone. And it's just like, no, like the best is actually yet to come. Like we're still super young. Like Carly, you're 23, Maggie and I are only 28. Like we've still got our full 30s, our full 40s, our full 50s. Like we've got so many years yet to come, so many opportunities yet to experience. And it's like breaking away from those limitations and those fears that we're placing on ourselves, and actually being like, okay, like, yes, I've experienced great moments in my life already. How fucking amazing is that? But I get to continue to experience more of them in bigger and better ways moving forward as well. It doesn't just end here. This is not the end of my path just because I'm maybe reaching the end of my 20s, or it feels quite hard right now, or it feels uncertain right now. There's just still so much to happen and so much to come my way and so much to unfold in my path. And it's just like getting excited for that as well, like getting excited, being open to it. But oh my goodness, this has been a fun little chat. We should do more like this. Let us know by sending us a little email if you enjoyed this podcast episode, or even take a little screenshot, put it on your Instagram stories, tag us in it, let us know maybe what you enjoyed most about it, what landed, what resonated with you, and if you want us to record more episodes like this. But we've loved having this little vulnerable chat with you. We love being the space holders, the leaders, the practitioners that are also human as well. So thank you for being a part of this community, this vulnerable community, this safe community that allows us to be vulnerable, but allows us to expand forward at the same time as well. But we love you all so much. We will speak to you next week. And yeah, bye.
Bye.
Bye.